Well, hello, Catherine Langman here, back with you on the Productpreneur Success podcast. Welcome to the show if you are a new listener, and of course, welcome back to all of you long-time listeners. Always love having you all here. Now, hands up if you have ever heard the phrase, content is king when it comes to marketing your brand. I think that phrase has been around for decades now, or at least many, many years. And, for me, I think when I think of something being king, it sort of makes me feel like it should be the very most important one thing that stands out and sits apart or above all the rest. I mean, there is only one king usually, right? Now, obviously, having great content is what makes or breaks your brand's marketing and advertising. But if you're anything like me and many of my clients, you're probably feeling a little bit more like content creation has become like the beast that needs constant feeding, or maybe like the teenager who is always hungry. We are all operating a bit of a content machine these days, it feels like, and it can be really super tempting to just whack up some images and some captions because you have to, but without necessarily putting a whole lot of thought or planning into what you're sharing. So today on the show, I'm going to help make this a little bit easier for you. I'm joined by a guest, Lauren Schwartz, whose entire business is about creating content for e-commerce brands that is engaging and persuasive, and of course, importantly, helps to sell your products, but without necessarily being super pushy or, really, really salesy. Because, we obviously need to still have content for our ads that is congruent with being on a social platform. So it's a bit of a tricky game, right? Now, before we get there and before Lauren joins me on the show, let me quickly share with you how you can download a really useful free resource that will help you write great copy for your Facebook ads or Instagram ads or any other ads. And this resource will really complement what you'll hear from Lauren in just a minute. So this perfect Facebook ad template is for you if you feel like you have no idea how to write Facebook ads that will actually engage your audience and convert into customers, and you'd just like to follow a simple template that will show you how to make it easy. So to get your copy today, all you need to do is head to catherinelangman.com/perfect-ad-template. I will link that on the podcast show notes as well. So just head there where you can get instant access today, and you'll be rocking your Facebook and Instagram ads in no time. All right, so without further ado, let's welcome Lauren Schwartz to the show and hear all about how to create really engaging and persuasive creatives for your paid social media ads. So welcome to the show, Lauren. It's so fantastic to have you here with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So cool. So I guess to kick us off, let's share with the audience, or would you invite you to share with the audience? Tell us about yourself and introduce your business and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Lauren Schwartz, and I am the owner and creative director of the Loft 325. So we are a creative studio where we focus on all paid social creative. So all of the creative for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube. We essentially will take your content or shoot new content for you and basically develop your guys' creative strategy for ad creatives for paid social. So we are basically an extension of your creative team.
Or maybe the creative team, as the case may be for many.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. And I guess I would like to ask you just to explain to our listeners the distinction between the creative for paid social versus organic social, because I know creating content generally does feel like you're constantly feeding a beast that's always hungry. So
yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I like to think of it obviously like with organic and with paid social. Really the way that we like to think about content and how we shoot it is that yes, things need to look very native to the feed when you're creating ads, but they also need to serve a purpose. So they need to convert the audience, they need to convert the consumer to actually purchase the product. And so while we try to make content that is still very native, looking to the channels that they're on, we are also selling a product too. So making sure that we're getting you involved, telling a story, talking about the product, making it very, discussing the value props, features, and benefits. So creating content that not only is fun and engaging, but will also get you to convert as well. So I think that's kind of the difference. Whereas organic, it's, it's a little bit more fun. There's more trends you can do. And it's more just, talking about the brand overall, I think, for organic, whereas with paid social content, you actually have to sell the product.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Why spend money on ads if you're not actually going to sell something at the end of the day?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what got you into this? Like, where does the interest and the drive come for you to get into this area?
So I've actually been working in e-commerce for over 15 years. I actually started, designing landing pages and doing email marketing. So I've had just a lot of background within e-commerce, and I started working at a couple different agencies. And while I was at the agencies, I just really loved the paid social side of things and just understanding, what gets consumers to purchase and, how you can actually make consumers purchase. And I mean, truthfully, like I always say, I think it was more, it's kind of like a game to me, because like you're always trying to like one up yourself and,
Yeah.
always trying to one up the creative that you're working on and creative that you're doing. So I think it just, it fascinated me, and consumers are just so interesting on how they purchase. So
Mm.
it's really, it's always evolving, it's always changing. And so it's just something that I, just love doing.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I guess having that background as well means that you truly understand how the whole e-commerce business model works, and, that whole kind of buyer journey to get someone through the shopping cart at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, just working on the e-commerce and, building landing pages, doing email marketing. I mean, really you have to, it's funneling them in through all aspects of, the customer journey. And so understanding, what you need to have on your landing pages and your homepage, along with what you need to be having, for your flows and email marketing, just really understanding like how that all kind of works together. And then focusing your creatives on, getting them into the funnel as well, I think is just, it all goes together.
It all goes together. It just can't 100% rely on that ad. I know.
Yeah.
So, but when we are talking about the ad, I mean, I guess with social media, probably well, I imagine anyway, that the hardest thing is to actually get people to stop scrolling. So having that really click-worthy creative that stands out and captures the attention would be pretty critical, right?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people I think lately have gotten so into, we need to have this really strong hook, which I agree. I think you need to have really strong hooks. But I think the thing that I've noticed as kind of this whole like hook thumb stop ratio type thing is, getting into it. I think it's also making sure that, yes, you need to get people to stop, but you also need to get people to actually watch your ad for longer than 3 seconds. And you
Yes.
need to have them engage with your ad. And it's great to get them to stop, but if they don't actually do anything with it, then it kind of like defeats the purpose of actually getting them to stop. So, I've seen so many like new things with hooks where it's like this, gooey type stuff where people are like, oh, what's that? But like, yeah, that's great to get me to stop. But like, if it doesn't tell a story and doesn't really mesh with what you're talking about in the ad, then like, it doesn't make sense to the consumer. And truthfully, they're probably just going to scroll right past it anyway. So, just making sure that like if you do have thumb stopping, and hooks and trying to get people into your content, making sure that everything is cohesive and tells a story, is getting them to the actual page to purchase.
Yeah, so good. So that being said, then, what can brands be doing to really make their creative stand out from the crowd?
So, I think it's a lot of just understanding, who is actually purchasing from you. So I know, a lot of brands have these kind of customer avatars and, really trying to say like, okay, this is, who we're talking to. It's this demographic, it's this type of person, which I think is great to have. You obviously need to have a customer demographic, but I also think brands really need to step outside of their customer demographic and understand just what trends and what buying, how people are buying online and through e-commerce. And so just understanding like how everything is working right now. I mean, right now, just with like the influx of TikTok and so many people getting on TikTok, I think a lot of brands are kind of missing out on that, that fun style of creative where it's, using trends, using trending audio. And so making sure that like brands are staying up to date on what's actually happening, I think is also going to help them within their strategy to make sure that they're creating ads that are also going to speak to, their target demographic, but then new people as well. So I think it's just making sure that they're, staying up to date on what's actually happening within paid social,
Yeah,
social media in general, I guess.
Social media in general, that's right. It does seem to change and move at an incredibly fast pace at the moment.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, about the differences in the kind of creative that we should be considering for the different platforms, because obviously TikTok has come in like a bulldozer and kind of taken the market by storm a little bit, but I'm sure it doesn't necessarily replace other channels. So yeah, give us a bit of a run through on those differences.
Yeah, so TikTok, again, like that's a platform where, it's all about consuming content. It's all about you go on that app to look at content. I mean, really, that's all it is.
Procrastinate and waste time.
Exactly. Like that is exactly what you go on that app for. So, and I think, with ads and, talking to people on that platform, you have to be in the platform and make it look like content that would be on the platform. So I think having those type of, thinking and, how you're actually structuring your strategy for TikTok is you have to make it engaging. You have to make it trend worthy. You have to make it, with TikTok, it changes every day. What you posted last week for an ad is literally going to change tomorrow because a new trend is going to pop up and then all of a sudden you're having to chase that trend. So with TikTok, it's just a constant, update of what you're making for your ads. Whereas Facebook and Instagram, their Instagram is definitely trying to keep up with TikTok. And so with ads specifically on Facebook, how you can kind of think of it is whatever you're putting on TikTok for ads, you can take those ads and put them onto Facebook and Instagram, and they can last a lot longer on Facebook and Instagram than they can on TikTok. So I design mostly for TikTok first, as far as like the way that I'm creating the content, the way I'm talking about the product, because again, that can be translated to Facebook and Instagram. But for Facebook and Instagram, it's not the opposite. Like you can't make an ad for Facebook and Instagram and translate it onto TikTok. Like it just doesn't work that way, because a lot of the people who are on Facebook and Instagram, they consume the content, but they consume it at a much slower pace, I feel like, as opposed to TikTok. So it's just, having that mind frame of, okay, well, as long as I'm making content that's engaging on TikTok, that's trend worthy on TikTok, once I translate it over into Facebook and Instagram, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's going to do really well on Facebook and Instagram because people are consuming that content again at like a slower rate than TikTok. So that's how I kind of like to think about it when I'm designing, is TikTok first and then Facebook and Instagram.
Flow on from there. And do you notice any like differences in terms of like, are people going on TikTok just for that kind of entertainment and, spending time just entertaining themselves, versus maybe then on Instagram or Facebook, they then are actually clicking and going to the shop to buy? Or is it
I mean, I think,
for
Facebook and Instagram too, where like TikTok static imagery doesn't necessarily work on TikTok, but static images and GIFs and stop motion works on Facebook and Instagram. So I think if you're going onto a TikTok app, then yes, like you just want to consume content. Like you're just going to sit there and scroll for hours and hours and get in a black hole of TikTok, where as on Instagram, you're still scrolling, but you have a tendency, exactly. Like you have a tendency to just click more and like, see ads as more of like, okay, this is an ad I'm being sold to, but I'm still going to click on it and look at it.
Yeah. So maybe brand awareness more so for TikTok, and then lower down the buyer journey perhaps on the other platforms. That's cool. What about your creative process? So if somebody was going to work with you, like what's the sort of process that you would be going through? Like how do you kind of end up from that first point to actually executing some really quality creative?
So usually when I, first start with the client, I really like to dive into kind of what they already have. So what creative assets they already have, where they've, designed in the past. So, what ads have worked previously, where have they kind of, discussed different, value props or how have they talked about their product previously. So I really like to do a deep dive of like a creative audit where I focus on just really diving into what they've done in the past. And then once that happens, then they go through and basically build out a strategy for them that's focused on evergreen and like trends. So I like to think of things as like, okay, I'm going to give you it kind of like evergreen trend. So like when we deliver ads, I always like to make sure that we're giving something that can be in an ad account, consistently for a while. And then trend related, obviously like it can go into TikTok, and it'll probably die within like a week, but then, the next set of ads will have like another set of trends and then evergreen. So just always making sure that we're like staying up with trends and keeping that, flowing for them so that they just always have constant creatives that they're working with to test with.
Yeah, gosh, you really would need to love the, creating new stuff to be really up, with TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm probably too old for that one. Oh dear. No, just kidding. Can I ask you, and this might be a out of the blue question for you, but I'd love to hear about some examples of some of the brands. Like, talk us through some of the things, some of the brands you've worked with, and maybe some of the creative ideas that you've executed for them. I always find that stuff inspiring.
Yeah. So, I mean, gosh, I've worked with a lot of different brands. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. And so,
let me narrow it down for you. Most of our listeners would be brands for women or children. So fashion or accessories or just products that women and kids might use.
Yeah. Yeah. So I work with a couple brands. One of them is like a non-alcoholic wine company.
Cool.
And so like some of the stuff that we're doing for them, we really kind of focused at first, it was very much brand story. So we like really wanted to get that product out there. We wanted to really talk about why people should be switching to non-alcoholic wine. And so now we're focused on, what are all of the aspects of, non-alcoholic wine, like, you get better sleep, there's no hangovers, like all of these things that we're trying to kind of pull out of them for like little nuggets, like staying healthy. So that one's actually been fun. I've been working with them for a little over 2 years now, and it's been fun to see like the evolving of their creatives, where at first it was very brand heavy and now we're just having a lot of fun with it. Like the brand is out there, it's very well known. But now we're like starting to test like different angles and kind of new concepts and really seeing like, okay, how can we really like kind of push the envelope on things?
Yeah, telling different stories and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been a fun one for sure. And then we work with another brand where it's, hair care products and
that would be like, good fun.
Yeah. Yeah, like satin pillowcases and that kind of stuff. So that one again, like that one's been
fun. How do you do TikToks about satin pillowcases?
It's funny, like you have to again, it's like it's one of those things, like that one is a lot of like quick transitions. It's a lot of kind of these green screen effects where you show, what your skin looks like when you sleep on a regular pillow with like lines and creases and wrinkles. And then if you have a satin pillow, like what it looks like without it, where there's like no lines and wrinkles. So just like always trying to think like outside of the box. I'm like, okay, well, this is a satin pillow, how can I make it interesting? So that, it's just kind of stuff like that we like are always having to just evolve how we're thinking. And I scroll, my screen time for my phone is ridiculous, which is really bad, but like I'm constantly looking for new things to kind of test. And a lot of times, like I look outside of the brand's competitors and see just like what other people are doing and how can I take that kind of information and translate it into our brand. So it's just a lot of research, to be honest.
Yeah. And yeah, I imagine it would be, in having to really brainstorm those different stories that you might tell, but yeah, in that trend-worthy way.
Yeah.
So I guess, and one of the last questions I'd really love to ask you would be, I think a lot of brand owners, and I don't know whether you observe this as well, they just feel so overwhelmed with everything that they need to be doing. And so how can brand owners really make content creation a bit simpler?
That's a great question, because it's one of those things that, again, like, I feel like we're always having to have content.
Mm,
And I think the biggest thing, that I always tell brands is, reach outside to the people who who you work with, your customers, getting that like authentic like testimonials and information. A lot of times, like, I think brands just miss out on working with their customers as much as they can, because they're so focused on like, oh, I have to make sure that I'm getting all of these, trend worthy things. Like, yes, you do need that, but you also still need that like authentic raw content that is from your consumer, about people talking about your product in like a really meaningful way. Like that content will get consumed so much more than knowing that it's a content creator shooting the product.
mm.
Consumers are super smart, and so they
Yeah.
understand that, oh, this person probably got paid to shoot this or whatever. Where, is if you're just a customer giving an authentic testimonial, like, that content is going to do super well for you too. So I think just like really reaching, inside of your brand and just seeing how you can work with your consumers and your customers to like give you that content that you actually need.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of trying to get that kind of user-generated content from customers as well. I mean, obviously it does very well in ads, but I do feel there's a bit of resistance from some brand owners, not
Yeah.
wanting to bother their customers or ask too much or overreach or anything like that. But when they do, it's pretty transformational.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
think too, like, even if you're working on your email flows too, giving a customer like a survey to answer, that's something that you can
yes,
even work within your ads as well,
yes.
getting a really great customer testimonial. And
Mm.
then if, they have a great one, you're like, "Oh, would you mind sending us a video?" I mean, it can't hurt to ask, and most of the
That's
time
right.
people will be like, "Yeah, sure."
Well, especially if there's a little something in it for them, right?
Exactly, yeah.
100%. So, Lauren, tell the listeners as well, how can they come and find you if they're interested in getting a little bit of help with upping the ante on their creatives? How can people come and find you and work with you?
Yeah, so my website is the Loft 325, and my Instagram is at the Loft 325, and then Twitter Loft 325. So anything Loft 325 related, you
Are
can
you
find
on
me.
TikTok too? After all of this,
I am on
TikTok too?
TikTok. Yeah, it's actually such a bummer, but like, I had my account and then it somehow it got deleted, so I literally have had to
Oh,
restart it. Yeah, but I mean, that's fine. But
no. Oh, well, we'll have to all go and check it all out there and see how it all works from the pro. So we'll get all of those links in the show notes, of course, and make sure that people can come and find you. So thank you
Awesome.
so much for jumping on the show with me today. It's been really interesting to hear about how you work and all of that good creative stuff.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Catherine. This is fun.